education, religion, government, or national security. Brannon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howes.
And welcome to the broadcast. Glad you are with us on this Friday night, July 31st. How is that the case? Tomorrow, August 1st. July 31st, 2026. I just hung up the phone with my IT guy. He tells me worldviewpedia.com is going this weekend. It has been over a year of us working on this. We spent $25,000 plus just on transcribing every radio show, every TV show, every conference DVD of our 21 years of holding our National Worldview Weekend conferences. Every book, everything has been transcribed and transcoded so that you can ask Bible questions, worldview questions from our Worldviewpedia software. I think it is the world's premier biblical worldview software, and I want to show it to you here in a minute because it's just getting better and better. He's going to continue working on it, but it launches, if not tomorrow, Sunday. That's what he's telling me. We also, by the way, have Anni Cyrus coming on tonight. We're also going to get an update from Michael Weiner. David Stockman, you might remember him with the Reagan administration. He's warning about the Clarity Act. He's warning about stable coins. He's warning that this is a big setup. It is not about freedom. It is not about knocking down the system run by a few. That's not going to happen. He says it's going to be a system that's very expensive, as I detailed in my Worldview report tonight, and only a few people are going to be able to afford to be involved in all that goes on with the regulations and the reporting. And he's warning, David Stockman is, about what this really means. I want to get Michael Weiner's response to that tonight, as well as we crossed about $40 trillion today in debt, $40 trillion officially. Also, NASDAQ's worst July in 22 years, says Zero Hedge. Bonds' biggest July yield spike since 2005. Oil's biggest July jump in over 30 years. I'm going to ask Michael Weiner, what does he think that means? Well, we are getting word from the Wall Street Journal. Trump orders fresh attacks on Iran. U.S. officials say attacks begin as soon as this weekend. So any moment, anytime this gets underway. We're going to ask Anni Cyrus all about it. Now, there's been a lot in the news about the attacks on water treatment plants. And of course, we've been warning about that for years and years. And again, as you know, we reported on insurance executives running a tabletop exercise on that. We also have South Dakota reporting cyber attack on Pennington County, likely by foreign adversaries. That's coming from, again, a South Dakota News Watch website. It's also going on in Georgia. We got an email today from one of our viewers who somehow got a hold of this. Georgia Association of Water Professionals is saying that Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, their cyber electronic command, is involved in cyber attacks on the water system in Georgia. Now, this is not new. Again, you go back to my documentary Sabotage from 2018, and we were warning about it then. In fact, here is a report from 5 years ago from Tampa, Florida, before I play a clip for you about a system known as pigging. Some of you, I guess, in the listening audience and viewing audience tonight know exactly what that is. I had never heard of pigging and how you clean a water system. Some of you probably know very well what it's all about, have done it, and are involved in it in your profession. I went and looked it up. I have a video on that because Dave Gobbets, who was in the military and a federal agent and has gone undercover in over 425 mosques in America, was my guest for an hour today at 1 o'clock Central, 2 Eastern Standard. He said when he was in the government, he was warning government officials about the threat of using technology like pigging technology to put radiological dirty bomb in our water system. And so I went and looked up pigging. I said there's got to be a video that shows and demonstrates what that's like, how it's done. And sure enough, there is. I'm going to bring it to you. And I also went and looked up some reports on radioactive material getting into our water treatment plants. And I found some government reports going back to 2005 and some as recent as 2022 warning about that threat. How long would it take before you found out you had just been consuming water that was contaminated with a dirty bomb or the material from a dirty bomb, radiological material? Wow. All right. Well, 5 years ago, we were getting warnings, and even more than 5 years ago, but here's one where a hacker attempted to change the chemical levels at a water treatment plant. This was in or around Tampa Bay, Florida, I believe. Watch this.
Been very dangerous. That is the message from the Pinellas County Sheriff tonight as detectives work to find a hacker who they say tried to remotely poison the drinking water supply in Oldsmar.
And ABC Action News reporter Sarah Hollenbeck spent the day talking to security experts about the threat this poses nationwide.
Cybersecurity experts tell us this attack is significant, and while luckily it was caught in time, they say it should raise red flags about the vulnerability of our utility systems. The safety of the water coming out of the tap, it's the last thing on the minds of Bill Cordell and his Oldsmar neighbors.
I was totally shocked to hear the news. I mean, a small town like Oldsmar, and you wonder who would even, we're not really on the map to most places, you know, nobody's ever even heard of Oldsmar.
But now the Pinellas Sheriff is teaming up with the FBI and Secret Service to track down a hacker who they say remotely accessed the water treatment system, attempting to increase the amount of sodium hydroxide in the water from 100 parts per million to more than 11,000 parts per million.
This is obviously a significant and potentially dangerous increase. Sodium hydroxide, also known as lye, is the main ingredient in liquid drain cleaners.
In small amounts, the chemical can be used to control water acidity and remove metals from drinking water. In large amounts, it can cause severe vomiting or even death. Luckily, an operator noticed the switch and corrected the chemical amounts before it impacted the drinking water. Backup alarms also would have caught the switch.
It's incredibly significant. It's the first time that there's been a successful hack that we've documented in the United States that specifically targets a water company.
Cybersecurity expert Jonathan Munkin says it's likely a crime of opportunity, but it highlights vulnerabilities potentially putting all of us in danger.
It may be less about targeting this particular system in this particular town or this particular state, and more about just the process of a burglar driving past houses and waiting to see one that doesn't have a security system sign in the front yard.
Well, there you go. So 5 years ago, this was being reported on, and that's not the only report I could have played for you tonight from around the country. So that in itself is interesting. So look at this. Here is a report. Let me go to the older one. I'll start with the older one. Here's a report from The Spectator. You guys remember The Spectator? That was a magazine that got a lot of popularity and during the Clinton years. This is an article from 2007, April 2007. Melanie Phillips wrote an article called I Found Saddam's Weapons of Mass Destruction Bunkers, WMD. It's a fair bet that you've never heard of a guy called Dave Gobbets. Well, he was my guest today. He's a longtime friend. His son has worked with us as well. And it's also a fair bet that you think the hunt for weapons of mass destruction in Iraq has found absolutely nothing, not a zilch. And that therefore there never were any WMD programs in Saddam's Iraq to justify the war ostensibly waged to protect the world from Saddam's use of nuclear, biological, or chemical weapons. Dave Gobbets, however, says that you could not be more wrong. Saddam's WMD did exist. He should know because he found the sites where he is certain they were stored. And the reason you don't know about that is that the American administration failed to act on his information, lost his classified reports, and is now doing everything it can to prevent disclosure of the terrible fact that through its own incompetence, it allowed Saddam's WMD to end up in the hands of the very terrorist states against whom it is so controversially at war. Now, you may be tempted to dismiss this as yet another dodgy claim from a warmongering lackey of the world Zionist neocon conspiracy giving credence to yet another crank-pushing U.S. propaganda. If so, perhaps you might pause before throwing this article at the cat. Mr. Gobbets is not some marginal figure. He's pretty well as near to the horse's mouth as you can get. Having served for 12 years as an agent in the U.S. Air Force's Office of Special Investigations, Mr. Gobbets, a trained Arabic-speaking, was Arabic speaker, folks. So now you understand how he goes undercover in 425 mosques in America and he's done one of them for us, and we paid him to do that, and he gave us a sworn affidavit on what's going down in Texas. And then we were asked to give that sworn affidavit and report to the Attorney General's office in Texas. A trained Arabic speaker was handpicked for postings in 2003, first in Saudi Arabia and then in Iraq. His mission was to locate suspect WMD sites, discover threats against U.S. forces in the area, and find Saddam loyalists, and then send such intelligence to the Iraq Survey Group and other agencies. Between March and July 2003, he says he was taken to 4 sites in southern Iraq, 2 within Nasra, 1 20 miles south, and 1 near Basra, which he was told by numerous Iraqi sources contained biological and chemical weapons, material for a nuclear program, and UN-prescribed missiles. He says, in no doubt, whatever that this was true. I'm not sure how that's written, but anyway, this was in the first place because of the massive size of these sites and the extreme length to which the Iraqis had gone to conceal them. 3 of them were bunkers buried 20 to 30 feet beneath the Euphrates. They had been constructed through building dams, which were removed after the huge subterranean vaults had been excavated so that these were concealed beneath the riverbed. The bunker walls were made of reinforced concrete 5 feet thick. There was no doubt, with so much effort having gone into hiding these constructions, that something very important was buried there, says Mr. Gobbets. By speaking to a wide range of Iraqis, some of whom risked their lives by talking to him, and whose accounts were provided in ignorance of each other, he built up a picture of the nuclear, chemical, and biological materials they said were buried underground. They explained in detail why WMDs were in these areas and asked the U.S. to remove them, says Mr. Gobbets. Much of this material had been buried in the concrete bunkers and in the sewage pipe system. There were also missile imprints in the area and signs of chemical activity, gas masks, decontamination kits, atropine needles. The Iraqis and my team had no doubt at all that WMDs were hidden there. There was yet another significant piece of circumstantial collaboration. The medical records of Mr. Gobbets and his team showed that these sites, they had been exposed to high levels of radiation. And it goes on from there. Now, that's Mr. Dave Gobbets, who comes on this broadcast quite a bit, was on today for a whole hour. You should indeed go and listen to that show. Now, he knows what he's talking about, folks. He's been there. He's seen it. By the way, he's not the only one. I talked to a guy that was in the Pentagon during the first Trump administration. He was in the Pentagon, and he had been special forces on the ground in Iraq. And he told me he stood right on top of a cache of biological weapons, a big container of biological weapons. He said the difference here, Brandon, is that sometimes in the military, they do not classify biological weapons as weapons of mass destruction, WMDs. Some just don't classify that in the same category. Make of it what you will. That's what he told me. But he, too, said the same thing. I have no qualms in telling you there were WMDs there. The article goes on to say Mr. Gobbets verbally told the Iraq study group of his findings and asked them to come with heavy equipment to breach the concrete of the bunkers and uncover their sealed contents. But to his consternation, the ISG told him they didn't have the manpower or equipment to do it, and that it would be unsafe to try. The problem was that the ISG were concentrating their efforts and looking for WMD in northern Iraq, and this was in the south, says Mr. Gobbets. They were just swept up by reports of WMD in so many different locations, but we told them that if they didn't excavate these sites, others would. That, he says, is precisely what happened. He subsequently learned from Iraqi CIA and British intelligence that the WMD buried in the 4 sites were excavated, listen now, by Iraqis and Syrians with help from the Russians and moved to Syria. That's exactly what we've been told by numerous reports. That's open source all over the place. about the number of WMDs moved to Syria. In fact, is the former head of the Air Force for Saddam Hussein, General Logan. Can you look it up for me? I think his name is General Sada. General Sada. I think it's Sada, S-A-D-A. Look it up real quick, see if you can find the article on that. General Sada. He's a Christian. He now lives in Oklahoma. He gave reports that a bunch of these weapons of mass destruction were moved to Syria by planes. I think it was General George Sada.
Yep.
Is that right?
You. Yeah.
Are they hearing you too?
Yep.
Yeah. General George Sada. And here we have our own guy, Dave Gobbets. The worst case scenario has now come true. Saddam's nuclear, biological, and chemical material is in the hands of rogue terrorist state and one with close links to Iran. This is a 2007 article. Where do you think all that is today? How hard is it to get some of that to the U.S., folks? With container ships coming in the U.S. day in, day out, with only a small percentage of them ever scanned. When Mr. Gobbets returned to the U.S., he tried to bring all of this to light. Two congressmen, Peter Hoekstra, chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, and Kurt Weldon, we've interviewed him, were keen to follow up his account. To his horror, however, when they tried to access his classified intelligence reports, they were told that all 60 of them, which in the routine way he had sent in 2003 to the computer clearinghouse at a U.S. air base in Saudi Arabia, had mysteriously gone missing. These written reports had never, ever been seen by the ISG. One theory is they were inadvertently destroyed when the computer database was accidentally erased in the subsequent U.S. evacuation of the airbase. Mr. Gobbets, however, suspects dirty work at the crossroads. It is unlikely, he says, that no copies were made of his intelligence. And he says that all attempts by Hoekstra and Weldon to extract information from the Defense Department and CIA have been relentlessly stonewalled. In 2005, the CIA had a belated inquiry into the disappearance of this intelligence. Only then did its agents visit the sites to report that they had indeed been looted. The New York Sun produced a more balanced report, but after that coverage died, according to Mr. Gobbets, the reason is a concerted effort by the U.S. intelligence political world to stifle such an explosive revelation of their own lethal incompetence. Apparently, the New York Times dismissed all of this at one time. But our own intelligence community wanted to hide it because of their own embarrassment. You know, that's interesting. That's what Dave Gobbets said today. Dave Gobbets said, about 95% of what's classified doesn't even need to be classified. I said, well, why is it classified then? He said, because a lot of it would reveal their absolute failures, and they don't want you to know their failures. And they also don't want you to know how little it is they know about Islamic terrorist organizations. If their information was available for all of us to read, you would see just how ignorant most of the folks in the intelligence arena are when it comes to understanding Islam, their proxies, and their strategies. Go listen to the interview. He said it today. The problem the U.S. authorities have, after he and Iraqi colleagues spoke at last month's Florida meeting of the Intelligence Summit, an annual conference of the intelligence world, they were interviewed for 2 hours by a U.S. TV show, only for the interview to be junked after the FBI reportedly rang Mr. Gobbets and his colleague to say that they would stop the interview from being broadcast. The problem the U.S. authorities have is they can't dismiss Mr. Gobbets as a rogue agent because they have repeatedly decorated him for his work in the field. In 2003, he received awards for his courage and resolve in saving lives and being critical for information flow. He was critical to that information flow. In 2001, he was decorated for being the lead agent in a classified investigation, arguably the most sensitive counterintelligence investigation currently in the entire Department of Defense. And because his reports were such high quality, many were published in the Air Force's daily threat product for senior United States Air Force leaders or transmitted at the national level to all security agencies in U.S. government. Well, he was telling us today about the level of security he has had at the highest levels. And he's a regular guest here. Now, Dave, today, I asked him about what's going on with Iran threatening this, threatening that. And of course, one of his answers is that, they may just wait it out because right now they're getting such good PR. They're taking over the country. They're growing in Texas. They're growing in the South. Americans are coming to love Islam, or at least tolerate it, allow it. So they may not do anything. But then I did ask him, well, what about the Iranian version of Islam? The Shiites that believe that their 12th imam comes through chaos. I said, wouldn't some of them maybe go off the rails? He said that they could. They'll do it whenever it's in their best interest and best timing. And he began to say how when he was in the government, was warning about our water supply. This all came up because I was asking about all these reports. He said, well, when I was in the government, I was telling them how they would threaten the water supply. And he said it's called pigging. And as I said a while ago, I'd never heard of pigging. Some of you in this audience, as I said, may know exactly what it's done and have done it or do it as part of your job. Well, I went looking for a video, and sure enough, here it is. This is how pigging is done. And it's through this, you could put a dirty bomb inside the water systems. What? Here we go.
There are 3 basic ways of inserting a cleaning pig into a main. One is to use a special pig launcher attached to a fire hydrant with the valve removed. For this method, an external water source is required. This can either be a fire hose connected to a hydrant that is not in the isolated section, or by a high-pressure pump connected to...
Okay, let me just stop right there. How hard is it to get into a fire hydrant in a secluded area in the middle of the night? Not too hard. Or to get the necessary truck with the water that you would then provide this pressure of water for this device placed in the line that you're seeing a graphic of. Not too hard. Not particularly too when some of these people may have been hired and are actually working in some of these industries, which we've been told that's a real threat, them working inside of these industries. Here we go. Continue.
An independent water supply. Another method is to use an oversized spool inserted into the main line. Additionally, a Y section may be inserted into the line. After the pig has been forced into the main, it will be pushed along by water pressure from the distribution system. Pigging procedures will vary depending upon the condition of the pipeline, sections to be cleaned, and the type of pig used. The general procedure for pigging includes notify the public and shut off the system, install launching and retrieval equipment, isolate the water main to be cleaned and make sure all gate valves on the main to be cleaned are open, make provisions to control surges, open the water supply upstream to launch the pig.
All right, we'll stop there. So you get the idea how it works, the graphics. And the explosion is only big enough in order to take the concealed radioactive material from a dirty bomb, which I don't want to give people too much idea about how to get it. But of course, this is not hard to get. Not hard to get from hospitals and x-ray rooms and whatnot, material that is radioactive and collect it. This is why it's such an issue of a dirty bomb. Because a dirty bomb, while it may not kill a lot of people, and it could with the fallout, but unless you're in the vicinity and getting contaminated by the fallout, you're going to be fine unless you're downwind from it. But even if you're downwind from it and you know about it, you can take shelter. You can seal off a room with plastic. How many of you, by the way, have plastic? Big sheets of plastic. How many of you? Raise your hand. I bet a lot of you are not raising your hand right now. Some of you are, because you know, and you just all, some of you guys out there, I'm sure, have your garage and you have everything. You have the duct tape, you have sheets of plastic or whatever you might need it for, cover something, work on this, work on that. But how many of you have big rolls of plastic? So you can have a room in your house, maybe an internal room in your house, where you can seal off. Or you don't have a room that's internal, so you seal off a room with a window and you make sure that you make that room sealed off as much as possible. They know how to do this in Israel. They were doing it during the Gulf War. My friend Jimmy D. Young was living there as a reporter and talked many times about the air raid sirens going off and grabbing their masks, grabbing their gas mask and diving, running into the room that they had pre-sealed off for any biological attack. Now, if you're downwind from a dirty bomb and you take the right precautions, you'll be fine. You can seal yourself off. We've talked before about medical doctors who do seminars on this and getting under, say, maybe like a big ping pong table, particularly like down in a basement, so you get the protection from a basement. Even if there were a nuclear blast, if a terrorist let off a nuclear blast, you might be outside the blast zone, but if the wind is going to carry it, you need to get under a lot of mass. So let's say you have a pool table or a ping pong table. You could get under that, but you would put all kinds of file cabinets and books and anything that has mass all over that pool table. Make sure the structure can hold it so it doesn't collapse on you and trap you or kill you or hurt you. But then you would stack it around it. Bookcases full of books, anything you can around it. Like when you were a kid and you make a fort, right? And then you crawl in and then leave something you can pull in after you've gotten under there and get another cabinet or something you can pull in. You might have a little potty you put under there. But every hour that you stay in there, the radiological contamination and exposure of threat is dropping. I mean, Americans know this. Now, a dirty bomb, again, is mainly psychological, unless, of course, you put this device in the water system and then you detonate it. Now, you're saying when you detonate it, is that going to tear up the pipes and it'll all just go everywhere out into the field? No, the detonation will be small enough that all it's going to do is release the substance that is in that container that they've put into the line through this pigging type process. I learned all this today, and I spent a little bit of time researching it. Now, I thought, well, is this being warned about? And sure enough, I found a report, 2005, by the government. Here it is. U.S. Department of Energy, Office of Scientific and Technical Information, Radiological Risk Assessment for King County Water Treatment Division. Says that the staff of the King County Water Waste Treatment Division have concern about the aftermath of a radiological dispersion event leading to the introduction of significant quantities of radioactive material into the combined sanitary and storm sewer system in King County, Washington. Radioactive material could come from the use of radiological dispersion device, include dirty bombs that are not nuclear detonations, but are explosive designed to spread radioactive material. Radioactive material also could come from deliberate introduction or dispersion of radioactive material into the environment, including waterways and water supply systems. This document develops plausible and or likely scenarios, including identification of likely radioactive materials and quantities of those radioactive materials to be involved. Talked about the explosion would most likely be heard, but the type of explosion, sewer methane gas or RDD, may not be immediately known. Emergency first responders must be able to quickly detect the radioisotopes previously listed, assess the situation, and deploy a response to contain and mitigate, if possible, detrimental effects resulting from the incident. In such scenario, advance notice of about an hour or two might be available before a contaminated wastewater reaches a treatment plant. Sorry, I keep skipping a line. The second category includes events that could go initially undetected by emergency personnel. Examples of such a scenario would be the inadvertent or surreptitious introduction of radioactive material into the sewer system, intact rogue radioactive sources from industrial radiography devices, well logging apparatus, or moisture density gauges may get into wastewater and be carried to a treatment plant. Other scenarios might include a terrorist deliberately putting a dispersible radioactive material into wastewater. Drinking water supplies may be contaminated with the result that some or most of the radioactivity ends up in wastewater. Well, then I went and found another report from 2005. Then I found this from 2005. And then I found this one from 2022, security of radioactive materials. The risk of a dirty bomb and what it might do. And it goes into that. Why am I telling you all this? Because, folks, you've already heard tonight that most of our government officials are going to ignore the smart people in the room. Most of them ignored the smart man in the room that used to sit at this desk, Dr. Peter Vincent Pry. He tried warning them about this kind of stuff and the power grid and cyber hacking over and over and over again. And many others have warned about it. You've heard one name tonight, Kurt Weldon. He's been warning about this for 20 plus years. The smart guys get ignored. And then the local media and local people act shocked when they find out that Iran is hacking on our system. All I can tell you is you don't want to be dependent on the government. You do not want to be dependent on your local, state, or federal government to take care of you. Be aware, be prepared. Be aware and be prepared. That's all. Now, before we go to Anni Cyrus and then Michael Weiner, let's see what else I got here. President Trump went to Camp David today. He hasn't gone to Camp David a lot in his second term, but he took his cabinet meeting there today. Let me play a little video here for you. It's pretty cool. He's getting off. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos over the years from the Reagan Library, watching President Reagan go there. Reagan went there a lot. Logan, can you look up how many times President Reagan in his 8 years went to Camp David? Just type that in. They'll have a number. How many times did President Reagan go to Camp David in his 8 years? If you could find that number. Now, Trump doesn't go there a lot. He did some in his first term, but he hasn't hardly gone at all in his second term. He even went there today. He went just for a quick cabinet meeting and then left.
189 times.
189 times.
Spending a total of 575 days.
So he that's like a year and a half. A year and a half of his administration in 8 years, a year and a half of it he spent living at Camp David.
Trump doesn't like Camp David.
He doesn't like Camp David.
He said he doesn't like it.
And you know why?
It's not nice enough for him.
Probably not nice enough for him. But what is Trump going to do at Camp David? They have bowling. They have skeet shooting. He could go horseback riding. Logan, can you find some YouTube real quick of President Ronald Reagan horseback riding at Camp David? Because I got video footage I saw earlier today where he was in his riding clothes. President Reagan was in his riding clothes and boots. He loved a horseback ride. He liked to walk out there in the nature. He probably did some skeet shooting. Maybe he did some bowling, but he liked it. He liked Camp David. President Trump doesn't. I would like Camp David. I like skeet shooting. I like bowling, and I love horses, even though I broke my back with one in an accident. But if it was a nice horse that was well trained and behaved itself, I would enjoy that too. So I think one reason why Trump doesn't go there is he doesn't enjoy the things that I would enjoy or President Reagan did enjoy. I'll tell you something else, okay? This is 100% correct. You know another reason why he enjoyed Camp David? Because Reagan was going to Camp David with his wife. And he and Nancy really enjoyed each other's company. You've seen the love letters that he used to write her? They made some of them public. He would in meetings doodle love letters, doodle pictures to her, draw them and send them to her. And some of them made it out into the public. They enjoyed each other's company. They enjoyed being together. So I think they enjoyed it because they enjoyed being with each other. That was a chance to go there and have some privacy. And he enjoyed horseback riding and doing those things. And so they would go. So President Trump is not like Ronald Reagan. Not everybody enjoys the same thing. I get it. But I did find it interesting that he went. I also found it very interesting what Robert Kennedy Jr., Bobby Kennedy Jr. had to say. Now, this to me I love history. And this to me was pretty interesting, Logan. Listen to this. Listen to what Bobby said today.
I think, Mr. President, let me just take a moment to take note of the historical significance of this occasion. Before the press came in, you asked all the cabinet members who had been to Camp David before, and I think about 3/4 of them had. I raised my hand, but I haven't been here for 62 years. I came here on weekends, as many weekends as we could between 1961 and 1963. My father loved this place. My uncle loved this place. Nobody knows about this because it's not in the history books, but he was resentful at Dwight Eisenhower for renaming it Camp David. And if he had made it to his second term, he was going to rename it Shangri-La, which was the original name that Roosevelt had named it.
Oh, wow. The original name Shangri-La after the novel. Camp David, I think that was Roosevelt called it that, naming it after Logan. Google me on this or whatever you're doing there. I think Roosevelt called it Camp David after his son and grandson?
His 5-year-old grandson.
Bingo. That was the only David, his grandson?
Yeah.
He didn't have a son named David?
His father was also named David.
His father. Okay, there you go. I knew there was one other person. His father and his grandson were named David.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I knew there were 2 Davids. I just couldn't remember who they were. Your old man's firing on all cylinders tonight, Logan.
I know.
I've had plenty of Gatatana, Numi, Bella Grace. I'm in fine form tonight. The hard drive is running good. Are you impressed, Logan?
Mm-hmm.
You know I love history and trivia. Now, that's pretty amazing. He had not been there since he was a kid. His father was Attorney General Bobby Kennedy, who also was assassinated, sadly. But can you imagine? He's back there for the first time. What did he say, in 61 years?
Like 62.
62 years? He used to go there between 1961 and 63. Now, can you imagine? Do the math on that. When was he born, Logan?
61 and... Oh, yeah, that would be...
So what year? How old would he be in 1961? Bobby Kennedy. What is he? 5 or 6, 7?
He was born in 54. So he would have been 6, 7, 8.
Okay. 6, 7, 8?
Yeah.
61, 62, 63?
Yeah, like 7, 8, 9.
Okay. Can you imagine the stories he could tell of exploring and having fun at Camp David? I mean, how many acres is it? 100 and something acres?
Looking.
Can you imagine the fun they had as a kid? And he had not been back there in 62 years. So anyway, folks, I thought that was a pretty...
Snakes.
Huh?
He was probably catching a bunch of snakes and
He
stuff.
loves to catch snakes and all kinds of stuff, doesn't he?
125 to 180.
There you go. All right. It's also got the Marines and
Why do they not know?
The Marines and the Navy are in charge there. What, Logan?
Why do we not know? Broader estimates reach up to 180 to 200.
Because it's secret. Because it's also got a base on it. Is it a Navy base? I know the Marines are there. Is it a Navy base or Navy and Marines? While you're looking, here's a picture came out today of President Trump in front of the cabin, the main cabin for the president called Aspen. Now, folks, I don't know why you wouldn't enjoy staying in that cabin, particularly in the winter and building fires. I could go there, build fires, and snuggle with Melissa and watch television and read. I don't know that President Trump likes to read. I don't know. Think Melania would go there and snuggle with him and watch movies? I don't know. Eat popcorn, build a fire? I don't know. I don't know what that marriage is like. I know I do that here in my own town. I do that. I have a beautiful fireplace. Melissa and I love to build a fire in the winter and snuggle and watch movies while I read. So anywho, I don't know. I don't know why you wouldn't enjoy going to Camp David. It's got a big, what do you call it? Main center. And then what? It's got like 25 cabins, right, Logan? Like 25 cabins. And there's the president's cabin. Look who just came in the studio. Do you want to come say hi before we go to Anni Cyrus?
A dozen cabins.
A dozen? I thought he had 25 cabins. All right, so a dozen.
Approximately.
Huh?
Approximately a dozen.
You want to come here? Look who came to town. Well, come here. Come say hello. Papa, where are you? Papa's right here. You want to cuddle and watch Stuart Little? Well, I could maybe do that tonight. That would make you very jealous, wouldn't it? Yeah. Well, you don't want to come on camera? You're still tired from your flight, aren't you? All right, you can be tired. You can come on another night when you're not so tired. All right? All right. All right. Well, I'm glad you came to the studio. Bye-bye. Okay, love you too. Said, love you, Papa. Mwah, love you. All right. I'll see you at the house. I'm gonna finish this up and we'll watch Stuart Little. All right. So anyway, I don't know why Trump wouldn't like going to Camp David. Logan, I think going to Camp David and staying in the Aspen cabin would be quite fun. Did you not find me any videos, Logan, of Reagan at Camp David before we go to Annie?
I saw videos of him departing for the last time and stuff, but I didn't see him on his horse. I saw a video of him and who was it? Him and Queen Elizabeth riding horses.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Windsor Castle.
Yeah. Here's one. Look at this. Here we go. This was July 2nd, 1988. Look at this one. They are dedicating the chapel, the new chapel, to Camp David. But look what Reagan's wearing.
Our Father, who art in heaven.
Oh, they're in the Lord's Prayer. Look what he's wearing, Logan. He's either been riding or about to go riding.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us.
Well, Nancy's dogs are nearby. You can hear them in the background.
For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Also, as it is listed, I am.
Yeah, that's Nancy's dogs in the background.
Worship here, but have a sense of commitment to those who do.
Military personnel who.
He's breaking ground for the chapel to go there.
That's fine. One more take. In communion with the saints in all.
Fulfill the law of love.
Enable us by thy grace to be.
Well, that's pretty interesting. Well, now Nancy's dogs are barking. Yeah, he was about to go riding or just went riding. So no wonder he went there. How many days, Logan? 500 and what?
How many days?
Yeah, how many days he go there in his 8 years term? 500 and how many days?
500 and I gotta find it again.
500 and something days. And that's something. Here he is arriving on Marine One. Here he is arriving. That was in 1989, January. Oh, he's about to leave office the next week. Wow. Here he is eating with the troops there at Camp David, having lunch. All right, then we'll get moving. But I just thought you guys might find this stuff interesting. I love history. Let's get back to Reagan. There he is.
The detachment out there gave me one of those uniforms, and now that there's going to be a presidential library, I thought it ought to be seen by a lot of people instead of just in my closet. Well, anyway, I just want to tell you that Nancy and I...
He ends up... Here, boost that. What's he say? Nancy and I what? Boost the volume on that a little bit, please.
There's no way, I think, to really explain to you what Camp David, the good ship Camp David, means to someone who lives in the White House. Security, of course. There are a great many restrictions that you don't find yourself even going out and walking in the lawn. But to be able to come up here and not only the courtesies, but all of the things that you combine to do to make it so pleasant and restful and so forth. And every Christmas, I think the most beautiful Christmas tree that we have is the one that's decorated here over at Aspen. And all of these things that you do, and we're most grateful to you.
Again, just remind you, Aspen is the presidential cabin we just saw President Trump standing in front of. And Reagan liked to do Christmas in Washington or at Camp David so that the Secret Service and all the people on the staff could be with their families as close as possible.
I think that without Camp David, there'd be a sort of element of jail to holding the job that we hold. So I just want you to know how much we appreciate it. But I'm not going to want to make a speech here because I just thought there must have been times when you've been performing your duties when you said, if I had a chance, I'd like to ask him. And right now, why don't you? Anyone have a question? Yes?
Johnson, sir. What's your favorite football team? Who do you think's going to win the Super Bowl?
What is my favorite?
Football team, sir.
Oh, well, you know, I have to, in the job I'm in, I'm supposed to be nonpartisan. Now, of course, if it should turn out to be the Rams, I wouldn't hide a smile on my face.
How many of you miss Ronald Reagan? All right, well, there you go. I thought you guys would find all that interesting, Camp David and President Trump going there today, and that Bobby Kennedy Jr. hadn't been there in 62 years. I find that very fascinating. All right, we got a big news here real quick before we go to Annie. Take a break, come back. We're going to be launching the Israel channel. We have the URL, theisraelchannel.com, theisraelchannel.com. Coming soon, we'll be launching a 24/7 Israel channel with our reporter on the ground in Israel. That's one reason he was here discussing these things with us. And we'll be doing more tours. He's done an awful lot. He'll be doing more. And we're looking to launch a daily show Monday through Friday with Aaron from Israel. So we have a lot coming, the Israel channel. But I have to tell you, due to the cost and expense, it will only be available for those who belong to our vault. So again, we're adding a lot of stuff to the vault, folks. So again, whether it's our brand new software that's launching this weekend, Worldviewpedia, that we've been working on over a year, or the various channels that will be for Vault members only. The Israel channel, our Worldview News channel, the Bible Prophecy channel, the World History TV channel, the Bible channel, and then we're starting another channel called Technocracy TV. We also bought Technocracy.tv. So we're going to have about 8 or 9 channels for you of programming that will only be for Vault members at worldviewtube.com/vault if you want to join. Let me show you this real quick before we go to break and come back for Annie. I went and tried out this evening the software for Worldviewpedia that's part of the Vault membership. And let's see, where is it? I tried it out. I hope I didn't shut the, no, I didn't shut the URL on it. I went ahead and asked it some questions so I didn't have to wait for a response. Look at this. Worldviewpedia, your biblical worldview research assistant. I asked it, what is Gog-Magog war? What's that Gog-Magog war? It described it, the Gog-Magog war, as a prophesied end times conflict first mentioned in Ezekiel 38 and 39 in the Bible. Goes on to describe it and then provides you can hide the citations or not, or show them, and then provides you shows by Dr. Andy Woods, Rob Lindstedt, so Dr. Mark, what's Dr. Mark's last name? Dr. Mark, well, let's just go there. Let's see. Mark Hitchcock, that is. There he is, a whole segment. You can watch the whole thing if you're a Vault member, Mark Hitchcock. So it gives you where all the answers are coming from, but it gave you a detailed answer as what is the Gog-Magog war? Okay, I asked it another question. Scroll down here. Tell me about UFOs. Well, from a biblical worldview perspective, some believe the UFO phenomenon are demonic and dimensional in nature rather than extraterrestrial. It goes on to talk about it extensively, okay? And then I asked for the citations. Dr. Rob Lindstedt, We got some on AI, transhumanism, and the rise of the beast system. That gives you, and you can go watch these full shows on this. J.B. Hickson talking about it. I asked it another question. What evidence is there for a worldwide flood? From a biblical perspective, the book of Genesis, chapters 6 through 10, is cited as strong evidence for a worldwide flood. The language used in Genesis 6 is describing as being very consistent and clear, using words like all and every to indicate a global event. Scholars from a creationist perspective, such as those from the Institute for Creation Research, argue that the words and phrases used to describe the flood can be interpreted in no other legitimate way than as a worldwide flood. From a geological perspective, creationists point to the following as evidence for a worldwide flood: billions of fossils buried in rock layers laid down by water all over the earth, which they argue is exactly what you would expect to find if a global flood occurred. Talks about fish fossils found at mountain elevations, the Grand Canyon. Of course, he talks about the presupposition that a little bit of water do that over a long period of time or a lot of water over a short period of time. Of course, it depends on your presupposition, right? I asked it another question. I asked, what did Charles Darwin say about not finding any transitional fossils, meaning one going from one species to another? We've never found one transitional fossil, not one. Any you see in a museum, folks, are clay. They are made up and put on the wall. They're not real. They didn't come from the earth. There is no transitional fossil, one to another, one species changing into another. A fish changing into a duck, or a fish changing into a rat. Charles Darwin himself acknowledged that if evolution were true, evidence would need to be found in the fossil record in the form of millions of transitional fossils, something called missing links, showing one species gradually changing into another. He conceded that even in his own time, the fossil record was too sparse to demonstrate those gradual changes, though he remained confident such fossils would eventually be discovered. However, nearly 150 years of fossil digs have not produced credible transitional fossils. Rather than finding gradual transitions between species, paleontologists have found that complex invertebrates such as snails, clams, jellyfish, worms, and all major kinds of fish appear suddenly and fully formed in the fossil record with no trace of ancestors. Now, isn't that something, folks? Isn't that interesting? The questions that I immediately asked got immediate answer, not only to get an answer, but I get a link for the citations where you could go and watch longer presentations on this. I bet you $1 to donuts that evidence for a worldwide flood is going to include stuff by my friend Ron Carlson and Ken Ham. How about stuff on transitional fossils will probably be the same. Who gave me? Oh, did I ask for that? Let's see. Who would this be? That's about the racist human zoo in St. Louis. Yeah. Well, here we go. Dr. Ron Carlson, of course. Questions of Origins, Part 1 by Dr. Ron Carlson. See, now if you're a Vault member, you have access to watch this, right? And see this, the late Dr. Ron Carlson. So again, this is how powerful this is. And folks, this is a member. And you can clear that chat if you want to do, clear that chat. Start all over. Again, 36 years. This is, I think, the world's premier biblical worldview. You could ask it about a Bible question, a Bible verse. Worldviewpedia is, I think, amazing. And I've been working on it with our team for over a year. And we spent over $100,000 in building it for over a year. Just $25,000 alone went into transcribing it, transcoding it to build this. And it's only going to get better because we're going to keep working on it, making it indeed the premier biblical worldview Bible prophecy software, because nobody's got what we have. Nobody has the library we have. I've asked so many people. I've asked even some of the AI systems out there, who has a library of John Whitcomb, Dr. Ron Carlson, Rob Linstead, Andy Woods, John Ankerberg, Henry Morris III, and I give all the long list. Ken Ham, all these years, 36 years. Who has a library? We can't think of any, we can't find anything online where someone has got a library like that. To God be the glory. We've turned it into a Bible software program for Vault members, worldviewtube.com/vault. I hope you'll join. We're launching it this weekend. We'll put out an email alert and a text alert when it finally goes live. Woo-wee, this has been a huge project. We're so thankful. And thank you to all of you that support us through your membership so we can keep this kind of technology going and growing and make 36 years worth of material available to you. That's one reason why we're starting all these channels. Why are we starting all these channels? Because we have 36 years of content. And I said, you know what we need to do is find ways to make it easy for people to access it and benefit from it. So you have a Bible prophecy channel. You have a Bible teaching channel. You have a worldview history channel. You have the Israel channel. You have the technocracy channel. And there'll be more coming. And those will go 24/7, constantly adding new stuff. We're automating some of that. And I won't get into the details of what that automation will do, but it's very fascinating. So it automates and finds and quickly pops in new content, constantly playing 24/7. So you're not just watching the same 6 shows over and over. Because our library is vast and it's only going and growing, right? So anyway, there's a lot of benefits to being a Vault member. worldview.com/vault. And very soon we'll be announcing we're starting what's called Worldview School. Worldviewschool.com. It'll be for homeschoolers and Christian schools who want to train young people to use this as a curriculum for their homeschool program or their Christian school. And your teachers will be people like Ron Carlson, Josh McDowell, Dr. John Whitcomb, Ken Ham. It's going to be amazing. We're working on that too to resource homeschool families and Christian schools. Aren't you excited about all the Lord's allowing us to do? I sure am. Please join worldviewtube.com/vault. It is a big part of our general operating budget. We'll be right back with Anni Cyrus and then Michael Weiner on the warning from David Stockman, former director of budget and office management for President Reagan himself. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
The storm hits. The power's out. The stores are empty. Grocery shelves cleared in hours. And now you're staring into an empty pantry, wondering how you're going to feed your family. It doesn't have to be that way. Worldview Store offers premium emergency freeze-dried food, real meals packed with nutrition, ready when you need them most. Hearty breakfasts, savory dinners, hot, satisfying food for your whole family. With a shelf life of up to 25 years, you store it once and forget about it until the day you need it. Just add water. In minutes, you've got a hot, delicious meal. No refrigeration, no fuss, no panic. Hurricanes, blackouts, job loss, supply shortages, whatever comes, you'll be ready. Don't wait for the next emergency to wish you'd prepared. Visit worldviewstore.com. That's worldviewstore.com or call 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652.
Joining me now is Anni Cyrus. So we're getting news tonight, Anni, from all kinds of outlets that President Trump is likely to be striking Iran this weekend, and perhaps even Israel will be joining in. Here's a headline from the Wall Street Journal. Trump orders fresh attack on Iran. U.S. officials say the attacks could begin as soon as this weekend. As you know, he had his meeting with his board, his cabinet at Camp David today. What do you make of this? I guess he thinks, again, we hit some power plants, some bridges. We're finally going to bring these people to the table. Interesting enough, Dave Gobbets today, I had him on for the whole Worldview Radio TV hour at 1 o'clock Central. He said something that we have said here. When did we start negotiating with terrorists? Ronald Reagan was so adamant that we do not negotiate with terrorists. And Dave Gobbets, I was so glad he brought that up today. He said the first rule 101, that this Trump administration is ignoring. He said, I appreciate Trump in a lot of ways, but I think he has terrible advisors. And rule number 101 is you do not negotiate with terrorists. But apparently, we think that if we bomb them enough, they're finally going to surrender. Annie?
Well, I would say the whole do not negotiate with terrorists has been a slogan for a long time. Everybody does. Every president in America, even before Carter, has done it. But as far as today, I'm at a point where I don't care if there's another strike ordered. I want to know why. as you said, is this another strike to get them to negotiate, or is this another strike to finish them, or is this where we go in and let Israel finish it? At this point, I want objectives. Since February 28th until today, which I think is July 30th, 31st, there is no objective ever announced by this government. And as an American, I like to know the objective so I can hold somebody accountable or reward somebody if the objective is met or not. This roller coaster game is becoming, to me, very boring.
Well, we are getting word that American fueling tankers have launched out of Tel Aviv. They're circling the Persian Gulf hours after Trump gave orders for a fresh attack. We're being told that Israel may indeed be getting involved. So, I think we're going to start hearing a lot about that here very, very quickly. So you're bored with the topic? You don't think it'll change anything?
No, absolutely not. I have genuinely, I have moved mentally, I have moved on from the quote unquote Iran situation because I look at the pattern. Unless something dramatically happened, I don't know, Trump changed advisor or somehow Trump woke up one morning and decided to read a couple of biblical verses. Otherwise, he's after the same thing. And what he's after is not of my interest at all. So, again, let's say he new fresh strikes and Israel even gets involved. Then what? Then what? These are the same chapters of early March to early April of this year, isn't it?
Yep. And now we're getting word that Iran has come out and said that they will, if Iran threatens strikes on U.S. Israel critical infrastructure. Okay, that's interesting because we've been talking about water treatment plants, for example, the last month or so. Insurers were running tabletop exercises on what it would look like if there was a massive hack on 5,000 water treatment plants. We now have reports of that in Minnesota. I know President Trump's blaming it on the government of Minnesota. I think it's Iran. He can say what he wants, but we're getting enough reports that I think it's Iran because, again, we're getting reports also from Georgia. We got a report from one of our viewers who sent this to us, Georgia Association of Water Professionals. They openly stated that the several water and wastewater systems in Georgia have experienced disruptions this week due to devices being hacked by operatives affiliated with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Cyber Electronic Command. We're also getting reports that this is going on in South Dakota. I think I have a news report on that as well. So I know President Trump is kind of poo-pooing this. Here it is. Experts, cyber attack on Pennington County likely by foreign adversary. This is South Dakota, Newswatch, July 31st. So again, we're getting reports from around the country. I don't know why President Trump was saying he blames it on the government of Minnesota. Maybe they didn't have enough firewalls. Maybe they don't have enough protection. I don't know. Okay, well, what about the other places? And now we have threats of Iran against our infrastructure. You and I, a year ago, were saying last summer, before the 12-day war in June of 2025, if President Trump does this, he needs to hold an Oval Office address to the American people and tell them, look, if I do this, this is what could be coming. Stock up on food, stock up on water. Maybe you can get some medicine kits and whatever you need. But folks, there could be repercussions to this. That kind of address has not come. What do you think is going to happen to the country if you have a disruption of water? We've already discussed that on the air. What that means for coolant systems, HVACs for hospitals, data centers, and so much runs, of course, related to critical infrastructure related to those data centers. What if we have a poisoning of our water? We know the reports for years. It's in my documentary from 2018 on sabotage on the threats against our water, not to mention the power grid that Peter Pry, former CIA analyst, warned about from this news desk over and over. So now we're getting reports that Iran's saying, fine, come after us. We're going after Israeli and U.S. infrastructure. Annie?
Yeah, and here's the sad part. I know most people don't like to hear this, but between U.S. and Iran has delivered on their threats way more than we have. if you look back from February until today, they have definitely delivered. So let me go back to what you said. Why is President Trump poo-pooing the whole Minnesota thing? What do you expect him to do? Come out and say, do I sit here and say, I have Iran at a brink of collapse, but they still have the power to hack our systems? Of course, he's not going to admit to that. So he's going to go for, let's blame the government in Minnesota. He's going to blame anybody except Iran. Even if reports come out with proof, he's going to deny it. And as far as their threats, yeah, I don't think they're bluffing. They have realized they have the upper hand, as we discussed last time on your show with Sharon and Aaron. They know they have the upper hand. They know, as you said, the government has not addressed its people. They know American people are not prepared mentally, physically to go through any kind of hardship. So they might very well do it.
Did she just say hard blank or hardship?
Hardship.
Okay, I didn't know. I thought maybe you'd taken up to cussing lately. It's just your
it's just the accent.
It's your beautiful accent. All right, I just want to make sure I didn't need to enact a 7-second delay with you, Annie.
Oh, never.
I'm just teasing, Annie. I knew it was your beautiful accent. All right, look at this. NBC News is reporting tonight. Russia is sharing valuable electronic intel with Iran, officials say, as U.S. war drags on. Well, we already know that Iran is sending 300-plus drones to Cuba. We know that Russia is doing this kind of thing. We know that there's satellite imagery. China, Russia are backing Iran. Now I guess we got Ukraine involved in shooting at Iran. I mean, at what point does this thing merge into, well, you and I don't know what you've been saying, but I've been saying World War III has been going on for some time. If you consider border war, propaganda war, cyber war, economic war, that kind of thing, I think it's been going on a while. But when the world finally says, on August 1st, 2026, let's say, World War III began, or September 1st, 2026, whenever it happens, I pray it doesn't come to that. But when do you think the world would finally say, oh my, we're in World War III? And does it look like this when you have Russia and China starting to back up Iran?
It is so interesting you asked that, because before joining you, I was on a call with a friend, and the friend expressed concerns that is this going to turn into World War III? And here's my answer. It's not going to be any time before 2029. Reason. Do you really think our enemies, from Russia and China to Spain and Italy and France to Democrats and socialists and Islamists inside America, do you really think they're going to go to World War knowing they're going to expand Trump administration in America? No way. They're going to wait it out for the midterm. They're going to wait it out for 2028. When their preferred government is in place, then we might witness something. But right now, because they can't wait to get rid of Trump administration, not just Trump, the whole entire Trump administration, they're not going to let anything give him an extra day in office.
Well,
World War III would.
And if you are, thinking strategically, why wouldn't you wait and keep having us bleed
exactly.
more, with morale, right? Keep demoralizing us by dragging this out. Keep,
exactly.
Taking down our munitions. We can't keep up with that. Create division in the country over the war and the inflation that it creates. I mean, just keep doing this. We surpassed $40 trillion now today. I think the figure today was officially now crossed $40 trillion in debt. Of course, that's not counting the $29 trillion of underfunded liability for Social Security Administration. So why would you not just drag this out? Because we're going to collapse as an empire ourselves if this keeps up.
Exactly. Let me plug my book. Last chapter of my book. The Betrayal Jihad. That's how they've been doing it. Now, I only address the Islamist side of how they're creating the collapse inside America. But you add the socialists and the Marxists and the communists and everybody else into the list. They don't need to go to war with us. We're already at war right here in America. And the last drop of trust in government is pretty much fading away in America due to what's happening under Trump administration with Iran. So yeah, there's no need for them to go to war with us, or no need for World War III. And I want to add this, as I said on the private conversation, Americans need to actually wake up, come out of the illusion of alliance. A lot of countries that you might think are our allies are not going to come fight with us if there is a World War III. They're going to fight against us. And you can easily see that pattern by looking at what has happened since end of February until today. Didn't Spain flat out say you can't access our aerospace? Didn't friends keep saying we'll send help, we'll send this, we'll send that, but never arrived? Those are the signs, if there's a full-on world war going on, these countries aren't going to be our allies.
All right, let me go to another report here, Annie. This is from Times of Israel. Trump will be very disappointed if Israel obstructs his Gaza plan, U.S. officials warn. Comments come after Netanyahu's office says Israel cannot accept disarmament proposal approved by Hamas, which official says triggered 14-day sprint to set implementation timeline. Well, you and I know that Hamas is not going to disarm, okay, number one. Okay, number two, they're liars. And do you really think that the IDF is going to withdraw from certain areas? No. I mean, this thing is, again, this is doomed to fail. Why does President Trump keep pursuing policies that are only going to make him look like he's failing?
I would say short answer is because there's a reason pride is one of the deadliest sins, isn't it? His ego and his pride has blinded him so very well, not just now. It's been going on for about 3 years now, if you ask me. He doesn't see his plan as a failed plan. He blames others. It's Bibi's fault. It's the spokesperson from Hamas. It's the made-up third regime who are very rational in Iran. It's always the player's fault. His game is perfectly set because it's so perfect.
Mm-hmm. Well, here is that clip. CNN was interviewing one of the guys there at the White House. Here we go. Listen. Let me plug it in here, guys. Sorry. Here we go.
I just want to read you a quote from what one official told reporters yesterday when it comes to Israel's participation in what has been agreed to. They say, quote, "We are not asking Israel for anything other than to implement their commitments under the 20-point plan," referring to the Gaza peace plan that the president had unveiled. They went on to say, "If they do not do that, President Trump will be very disappointed. I do not think the Israelis would want to escalate things with us right now." I think sort of an implicit acknowledgement that relations between President Trump and the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are strained at the moment over the Iran war and Israel's other provocations in the region that he sees as threatening the truce, not only with Iran, so insofar as it exists at all, but also this plan with Gaza. And
so what do you think? Do you think there's tension between President Trump and Netanyahu, or is that just the media fanning more division?
I don't know if I can necessarily label it tension, but I can say yes, most certainly. Bibi has been very patient. I'll say it this way. Bibi has been very gracious and patient when it comes to both Gaza. And again, just a reminder for your audience who might have forgotten, when we dove in with this 20-point plan, Hamas was cornered. IDF was almost deep in, about to finish them. So, and that was October of last year. So just looking at putting Iran war aside for a minute, just the Hamas situation, that's been 10 months of patience. For 10 months, Bibi has agreed. He took the steps they were supposed to take. And I know a lot of people think, oh, well, they got their hostages back. You really need to learn in life. what you give versus what you receive needs to, if not be higher, but at least level. Getting your hostages back and in return freeing thousands of Gazans who committed crimes during October 7th is not something to celebrate. It's just not.
Tell me this, Annie, what on a different topic, what do you make of what's happening in Spain and the border crisis and all these immigrants running over there, and they're breaking into shops, breaking into apartments, getting into knife fights with each other on the street? I'm seeing some of that. Is that coming to America again and on steroids in another administration that opens the border back up?
Absolutely. Here's the thing. We may not even need to wait for an administration to reopen borders. One of the things I've been addressing somewhat recently is a lot of these people who make it to European countries, these European governments are actually giving them paperwork. They're allowing them to stay under no investigation. And then within a few years, they become citizens of that countries. And then they apply for visas to America with that identity, meaning Mohammed Aziz from Syria is now Mohammed Aziz holding a British passport. And then Mohammed Aziz comes to America with a visa using a British passport. You see the circulation here?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't even need to wait for a border open. Every 3-4 years, now some countries are different. Netherlands take about 6 years. UK takes 3 years. France take 4 years, I believe. But within 2 to 5 years, they hold a passport that gives them easy access to America. Unless we come to realize of that loophole, we're going to just have them come to America one way or another. Now, you add that to possible administration to reopen the border, absolutely. You watch another, I don't know, decision of flying 60,000+ Afghans to America and then let them loose in America. That's just, again, that we already have plenty of them. And sometimes people tell me like, well, you keep talking about it, but we don't see anything. You don't see it because you're not looking. And you don't see it as heavily as Europe because America is giant. But if you pay attention, if every day you would actually look at local news, it is happening in America. It is. There are Middle Eastern, I will say this, not Asians. They're not Chinese or Japanese. Chinese agents operate in a much higher class. You know, they go get jobs in government offices and leak information. That's what they do. Middle Easterns are in America and they are committing rape. They are doing grooming. South Dakota, as one of the top 3 routes of human trafficking, 2 of their main gangs that is being investigated, not by government, by an NGO. It's a Pakistani Muslim gang. They're using South Dakota to transfer these kids, these girls to be specific. So it's happening in America, but because we're a much bigger country with a much bigger population and a much more paid mainstream media, we just don't hear about them every day, Brandon.
Mm. Let me jump back to Iran. Bill Hagerty, U.S. Senator from Tennessee, he's out telling Fox Business this afternoon that what President Trump's about to do to Iran will be devastating. Listen to this, please.
Senator, are you in favor of this 2-week plan to basically ramp up strikes on Iran?
Yeah, actually, I think Brad Cooper's done an excellent job of conveying to the president his options. And if you think about it, and Jackie did a great job reporting this, but if you think about it, we stopped the execution of the target package that Admiral Cooper was executing when we stepped back to negotiate a ceasefire and deal with the Strait of Hormuz. At that point in time, Brad Cooper was probably 75 to 80% of the way through the initial target package. The timeline that he's talking about, 2.5-3 weeks, is consistent with what it would take to complete that package. That's a package that includes human targets. It's going to be devastating to the Iranian regime. I think it's time to step up and do it. I'm entirely in favor of it.
Senator.
All right. So that U.S. Senator thinks it's going to be devastating, I guess, huh?
Well, we go back to definition. Brandon, what's devastating to an American senator is not devastating to IRGC commander. It might be devastating to the people of Iran. but not to the regime. Or again, whomever is doing a great job conveying the options is missing the most important option. No, the only possible option. IRGC is the problem. Not the country, not the Strait of Hormuz, not the Cork Island. None of those are the problem. IRGC is. So allow Israel, even if you don't want them to do it, allow Israel to give you the information you need to take out the IRGC members. Not 5 at a time and then go for ceasefire. No. One coordinated attack or operation between U.S. and Israel can take out the much needed, absolutely required 1,200 IRGC names and then watch it all fall apart on its own. And that's what Israel was doing last year before we dove in with our B-2s.
All right. Anything else you got before we let you go?
No, I think we'll just wait and watch. I guess I'll see you next week on your radio or your Brown House Live to address the next seat of negotiation.
Are you been watching the Iran Lego videos?
No, I have been very much offline, pushing to get the second book out, Lord willing, by last week of August. So no, I have not been, truthfully, I have not been paying attention to the Lego videos or most of the news that's flying around.
All right. Stay alert and look forward to having you back on as soon as we have breaking news.
Absolutely. And you stay safe, Brandon.
You too. Anni Cyrus checking in tonight, guys. liveuptofreedom.com, liveuptofreedom.substack.com, liveuptofreedom.com. Logan, can you look? You can see my computer. Is that legit? Is that really one of their latest videos? Logan?
You will win.
I won't play the music and everything. Is that legit? Is that coming off that website? I'll bookmark it. You go check. I don't want to play it if it's not legit. But there you go. I bookmarked it. Anyway, her website again, liveuptofreedom.com, liveuptofreedom.substack.com. Check out Annie's website and her excellent book, Architecture of Jihad. All right, we'll be right back after this break. Friends, this is Brandon House. For more than a year now, I've been teaching through the book of Revelation, and the response from you has been overwhelming. You've asked me again and again, when are you going to put this study in print? We want to mark it up. We want to share it with our families. Well, it's here. My brand new 2-volume commentary on the book of Revelation, verse by verse, chapter by chapter. This is not a watered down, allegorized replacement theology approach to Revelation. This is a literal, grammatical, historical study, the way the Lord intended his word to be read. And I connect the prophecy of Revelation to the headlines you're watching unfold right now, the rise of global government and the convergence of end-time events the Lord Jesus warned us about. Folks, we are living in serious days. And there has never been a more important time to understand what God has told us about what is coming. Get your 2-volume Revelation commentary today at worldviewstore.com. That's worldviewstore.com. Join me now is Michael Weiner. I want to talk about what I talked about in my Worldview report tonight and get him to respond to this. There's an article written over at the Brownstone Institute. It's written by David Stockman. You guys remember David Stockman? I do, from back in the 80s. He's the former director of the Office of Management and Budget under the Reagan administration. And of course, he's been a longtime critic, as I said tonight on the Worldview Report, of what he calls crony capitalism. And he's warning about the Clarity Act, formerly the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act. It's being promoted by a lot of Republicans. I mean, a lot. The rhinos. And what it's supposed to do, however, they say is, well, regulate and bring clarity to the cryptocurrency and blockchain markets. And there are a lot of the big players I'm reading include people like Coinbase, Andreessen Horowitz, Ripple, Circle. And apparently a lot of them have raised a lot of money to lobby hard on this effort. Stockman, he calls it a Trojan horse. And his argument is this, that the Clarity Act will impose dual SEC, CFTC registration regimes. It'll call for disclosure mandates, what's called maturity certifications, all being put onto the blockchain technology. And I don't know what all that means, to be honest with you. But thankfully, he described it in plain English. In other words, it creates a federal compliance architecture that only large and well-capitalized firms can actually afford to navigate and comply with. And Stockman is arguing that what this is going to do is create a regulatory moat that protects the incumbent crypto companies. And it's going to strangle the smaller innovators and those who don't have permissions and protocols. He calls it disruptive in its true nature. He says his objections is both historical and philosophical. Now, apparently blockchain technology, this computer technology, was developed to eliminate the need for all of these trusted financial intermediaries. To eliminate, I guess, centralized authorities, and to then try to get rid of any kind of really, really heavy regulations and these heavy regulation institutions. And he goes back to the 1930s and security law. And he says that we actually are recreating those structures. He said what it really does is it domesticates all of this for the benefit of who can really already afford it. So it sounds to me that David Stockman's warning that big business and big government are working in cahoots together, pitching something that sounds like, oh, everybody can get into cryptocurrency. But at the end of the day, only a small group of people are actually going to be able to afford it. And you're going to end up with a small group of elite, once again, benefiting from it, financially enriching themselves from it, while they use it to control us. From debanking to destroying your privacy, seeing everything you purchase, and deciding what it is you can purchase. Oh, you've had too much meat this month. Sorry. What does Mike Weiner think about the Stockman piece? He joins us now. Michael, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Good evening, Brandon.
What do you make of this?
Well, Michael Weiner was ahead of it. I said it in July of last year, and I'm going to repeat myself. They're opening the door. Now, he called it a Trojan horse, but me, in July of last year, to the Worldview Weekend Watchers, I warned you that they're opening the door on this Genius Act and on stablecoin for a complete new financial system. What Mr. Stockman's talking about is absolutely correct. It's even worse than that, though. Today, finally, they're admitting what I've been warning everybody about. On television today, on Bartiromo's show, one of the top guys from the blockchain and crypto world got on, and he said tokenization is all about creating a multi-layered financial system. We're not talking about one or two different areas. I've said before, you're going to have 4 or 5 people competing for all of our dollars. They're setting not only up a complete new financial system, a complete new investment system. So it's not just a Trojan horse financially, and David is right in what he's saying, but they are destroying and rewriting how you will invest. Because based on how the Clarity Act is, you will be sitting back and you will be able to invest 24 hours a day. Why are they doing this? But it's not just for the elite, Brandon. They want to get all the little people's money too. They want every dime you have. And in the 1980s, they created mutual funds and ETFs later on and all this other stuff for multiple trading and to make money under management, ongoing commissions. Well, now they're making it 24 hours a day. Ongoing 24 hours a day. These blockchain technology, do we need it? I'd rather have a different flavor of ice cream. I didn't need it. I don't see any purpose in it at all. The purpose in blockchain technology, and Jamie Dimon, and I think Warren Buffett said it the best, it's an accident waiting to happen. Well, it's already going to happen. What they're doing with the Clarity Act is they're literally giving a what's called a credibility to the entire crypto industry, digital industry, tokenized industry, all of it. And to say, and David, I have to say to Mr. Stockman, in my opinion, I don't think it's just a moat for the big boys, because when you have a licensing program, other companies can apply for licenses. It's all a matter of money. You have to have a minimum net worth. So you'll have a lot of people. And then you have the Chinese doing the same thing. Globally, it's called a global world financial order. And I've warned you of it, and I've told you of it. You won't even be able to stay. I'm telling you, I know I went to college, law school, and got a finance degree, but I'll tell you what, you're not going to be able to figure out some of this stuff at a time. You're going to have banks doing digitizing. You're going to have back up to the banking system with tokenization. You're going to have the federal government with various different stablecoin type programs. You're going to have the cryptos throwing people at you. You're going to have 24-hour-a-day trading where you could actually buy a token in a company. You don't even need IPOs. You can literally buy into a company through a token. And you're saying you might be confused out there, so am I. But I'm not. I'm just warning you. They will pull the rug out from you, under you so fast. And the problem with it, we warn people constantly. And after a while, some people think, oh, all you want to do is get us to do more business, Michael. I don't need you to do more business. I can afford my house. But trust me. I need you to pay attention and literally properly protect your estate. This is not a period of time to play games. Every time we have warned you, later on, it comes out to be true. We warned you in July of last year, and now it's all coming true. The Clarity Act ultimately will pass. It will give credibility to a terrible system and will open the door to the entire crypto, tokenization, Coinbase, digital banking, you name it, stable coin. They will legitimately be making whatever is above trillions. That's the next level. That's what you'll start hearing them talking about, because there'll be so much money flowing around. And the problem for all of us is to understand, in this type of an environment, the possibility of a crash is overwhelming. It's inevitable. And when it does happen, you know, people, and I've said it before, make more money when it crashes than when it goes up. You might think I'm crazy, but I'm not. Why are all those people in New York so rich? How come the ones that live there, and then we got the commie boy, smile face, and then we sit back and have all of these guys with literally billions of dollars that didn't lose a dime in 2008, and they won't lose a dime whenever it happens. But if we do not protect ourselves now, because clearly, do I think it can be stopped? To tell you the goodness and honest truth, no. I think you need to prepare to live in it. That's what we talk about every single day on Worldview. Brandon doesn't tell you the world's going to change and you're not going to need freeze-dried food, or you're not going to need other products that they offer to protect you. Literally, all I can say is that the founders of our nation put us under gold. We lived under 200 years uneventfully. When I was in law school, the worst thing you could be was a bankruptcy lawyer. It's like being a whirlpool repairman. Look at it now. After we went off the gold standard, what happened? Vividly speaking, for any American to understand what's going on right now, they are changing your money. They will devalue your dollar. You won't even understand with the tokenization and the crypto and the digital and the stable coin and the various different things in banks. They're going to call a duck a dog. You're going to have so many different things going on. You're not going to be figuring out what's going on first. That is why you own metal, because it's the one tangible asset they can't get their hands on. But every society, be it India that's going that way, be it China that's going that way, South Korea is going that way, Australia is going that way, the European Union is going that way. We are all of them are all talking, except the United States as of yet, of central bank ownership of gold, because they want to be able to turn to people and say, no matter what, our financial system has stability with our gold holdings. And additionally, they're protecting themselves because they know that if there's a problem, they have a back door for themselves, not for you. So central banks are there. They are buying gold. You see a dip right now in the market. Rather than questioning it, the only reason it's down is called a war. Reality is, one way or the other, this thing is going to come to an end. And when it does, I think you're going to see some very big movement in the market. But as far as what Mr. Stockman said, I think it's beyond a Trojan horse. We are legitimizing a crazy financial world that's going to come upon us. I don't believe we can stop it. There's so much money that's poured out into these people's hands. They created an industry out of nothing and created trillions of dollars. Why did they do all this? Not just to make money. They want to control the world. Everybody does. And this is a globalization. So for you people who have retired and put away your money and think everything is wonderful, the first thing they'll put under the tokenization program and the cryptos and the Coinbases and all the rest of that stuff is your retirement plan. And you will be devalued. It's going to happen. You don't want to listen? Look at what happened in 33, and worse, look what happened in 71. In August 14th, 1971, if you want, I said it to people already many times. You went into a bank on August 14th, 1971, and you had $100,000 in a briefcase. Your money on the top said, pay the bearer. If you had that in your briefcase, they had to, any FDIC bank had to forthwith give you gold and silver for all that money. It said, pay the bearer. And guess what? If you sat there that day, you know what? I don't want to take it home today. I'll just come back tomorrow. You came back the next day, you got nothing. Do you understand? Nothing. If that isn't a wake up, I don't know what is, but that's what will happen with your retirement dollars. You will, I'm not saying you're going to get nothing, but it's going to change. And they're going to change how they view it. That's why Reagan created gold IRAs. He created it so you owned something that was tangible, that these people and megalomaniacs couldn't get their hands on. There was a better way to skin a cat than what they did right here. It's called financial responsibility. Like all of us that have retired or properly saved our money, being financially responsible. By going off this gold standard, we created financial irresponsibility. And all we are paying the dues for is them pushing the ball forward, and we can't stop it. The debt has to be rolled over at the end of the year. My prediction of $6,000 gold by year end is solid. I'm not going anywhere with it, period. But I will tell you right now, if you do not get prepared for this Trojan financial horse, as Mr. Stockman called it, or as I call it, the opening door of a financial conundrum of it's a mess, you are going to financially take a hit and you will not recover it. It's not money that will come back. You've got to understand it. You will not gain it back. It will be deducted and gone. That's why in 33, when they did it, was the worst year of the Depression was 1939, not 28, 39. Think about it. I'm done.
Well, and now we have Zero Hedge reporting tonight. NASDAQ's worst July in 22 years. Bonds' biggest July yield spike since 2005. And oil's biggest July jump in over 30 years. What does all that tell you, Michael Weiner?
It tells you that there's a very unstable market, that there's a tremendous amount of illiquidity, and that they're all sitting back and making numbers. I mean, pick a number type thing. And they're overvaluating various different stocks. They are pushing it. And every day I turn on, I love watching the financial networks. These guys get on. Everything is great. I have very rarely seen anybody who gets on there that says everything is terrible. If they say it's bad, it's because they say another stock is better. It's always an agenda. And the reality is you have a marketplace that is going to be revalued anyways. So when things get to where they are after our year end, which is September 30th, 2 months away, less than 2 months away probably, we are going to have some major comeuppance. And if you do not properly protect yourself, you are going to take a hit. I said it's not going to come back. These are because what they're doing, Brandon, when you talk about the CFTC and SEC, it's a game. I was regulated by both entities. It's a matter of paying the money to get the regulation. But what it gives you by being regulated, you can say to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, my company is regulated by the SEC and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. Wow. So was Bernie Madoff, wasn't he? So were all those people who pulled off 2008. They were all regulated, weren't they? But it gives them a sense of credibility. That's all it's about, a sense of credibility. And that's legitimately why this Clarity Act will pass. Because Trump, additionally, because I like Trump and a lot of things he does, but this and his involvement with this crypto world is self-ingratiating to his family, and I find that to be disturbing. But other than that, I am concerned about the Worldview viewers who have yet to take action and the people who are our clients who are not adequately protected. Because if they don't pay attention now, they will not recover. I cannot sell you more gold at higher prices. You're going to get less for more. That's what's going to happen. So you can make a decision, but all of these things that they keep talking about, when you talk about the stock market, Brandon, again, it goes back to pick a number. There's no stability behind it. Why does something keep going up, going up, going up, and going up? It's like an ice cream stand on a hot summer day. It's just drawing business.
All right, so you're holding to $6,000 gold by the end of the year, huh?
I mean, I said it January, and I'll say it now. I said it January a year ago what the price was. We went through many hills and valleys at that time. But if you buy gold and you just forget about it like you have, Brandon, for your career, I mean, you've done wonderfully with
how you bought it in 93, kept buying, put it away, put it in a vault, take the deposit box, and said, just forget about it. Don't even think about it.
Exactly. I mean,
I think I paid around 300 and something an ounce, and then under George W., I think it dropped into the 200s. I didn't care. I didn't care because I bought it for the long term and for what I knew was coming.
Exactly. And you were right. And anybody, look at, I've seen gold go up to 2000 and 2011 and then come back down to 1100 and then go back up again. The reality is over a long-term period of time, it's a healthy, constructive and proper marketplace for stability and strength. When I talk to people, I'm not here to tell you how to make money. I'm here to tell you how to preserve and protect what you have. And in my entire career, which I know Brandon says about 4,600 years, okay. I had one of the Worldview people who told me recently to say that I was there when the Dead Sea was alive. Anyways, I thought you'd love that, but all I can say is that this is just I couldn't imagine a more divisive planning of how they want to do a financial system rather than doing it right. They're doing it for all their advantages. And it's not the ultra rich. It's not the mistake of the capitalist society we live in, because the capitalist society is all about what made me successful in life, that way made my dad successful, who worked his butt off. And bottom line is it gives every American, let alone those eggheads who walk around with socialist garbage, a bunch of idiots, reality is you can go out and build some of them if you want to work hard enough to do it. And if you are willing to work, you have that opportunity in this country, which you don't have elsewhere, period. So there's my talk for America. Reality on the other end right now, if you are financially involved with a retirement plan, you better take a long, hard look on it, because that's the first place they'll hit you. If they can control your money, they can control you. That's exactly what it, and my goal is to making sure that you are not nobody's puppet.
Now, you've had quite a few people call you the last couple months, and they're putting gold in their IRA. What are they saying to you when they do this? What's motivating some of them? Because some have been listening to this broadcast a long time, but they're just now moving on it. Why?
I'll sum up with a lady who's 82 years old, said to me, wonderful gal, worldview gal, big donator and supporter of you, Brandon. She likes me better, but she's big supporter of you. She likes Dolly too. She wants me to take a picture with Dolly and send it to her.
Well, you can do that in October in Milwaukee.
I will. But she summed it up the best. I said it to a client the other day. She said, I've been a good steward. My husband and I, we had a nice little business. We retired. We did not want to be a burden on our family or our country. We were able to build that business together. And we didn't need anybody's help. We've been living a nice life. And now when I go to the bank and other things are happening, I find myself feeling, and so does my husband, that somebody's trying to steal our money, and it's our own government. And these people were raised under the gold standard. They take pleasure in the fact of something they control that other people do not. The brokerage firm doesn't control your gold. The depository where it's at only holds it for you. You can drive there. We've had people drive there and pick it up, so it's no big deal. You can sell it same day. I mean, it's just literally a fabulous opportunity. I had a letter from a gentleman who's a Worldview Weekend person who had to sell part of his IRA, and he sent me a really, really nice note to Swiss America and to us, and told me to tell Brandon. I read it to Brandon the other day, but to give you a quick synopsis of what he said, I can't thank you enough for how you all helped me to get liquid so quickly, how everything was so well handled, and everything the way you guys said it was exactly the way it happened, and I'm just so happy. That's the kind of stuff that we hear all the time, because if you don't lie, you don't have to remember anything. Life is sort of, these people in Washington and New York and these other places, they carry a Bible full of lies. They got to remember what page they have to turn to come up with it. So I guess right now, all I can say is that most of the people we're dealing with are very concerned about doing something. Some people are held off from doing something because of their financial people are telling them not to. Well, we're financial people. What are we? A candy bar salesman? Excuse me. But I'm sorry, we just deal in something else than they do. And because we don't try to tell you, and most people could say, we don't tell you to empty out all your money, and you know that, Brandon, and put everything into gold. Gold properly protects you and legitimately does not have to be the majority share of your account. Some people feel more comfortable that way because they don't trust other things, but you can legitimately balance your portfolio and not upset. And there's a lot of really financially sound financial companies and people that we work with all the time, that respect what we do, respect how we blend in with them. I've got people that have me speak at events. The people who are that close-minded to you and that controlling, no matter if doing business to me or not, if somebody who's been in the financial world, find somebody else. Because you have an ability, anybody who's smart in the financial world has to be smart enough to be able to look at all options if they're weighing it truly properly for their clients. That's why we always tell people to sit back and properly protect themselves. If you're not comfortable and you don't trust the other end of the world, then don't use it. I don't have any problem with that. Because I say it again, Brandon, it's their money. I say it all the time. You are the only ones that win and lose here. If you don't want to own any paper, then don't. It's your prerogative. You don't have to say, I'm sorry to your financial person because you want to do something different. You don't owe them any apology. They made their living. They should say thank you and move on. That's all.
Yep. All right, there you go. Worldviewgold.com, worldviewgold.com, or 1-877-864-1072. 1-877-864-1072. Thank you, Michael.
Good night, Dolly. Wherever
Good
you
night,
are.
she says. And folks, you can find out about how to put gold in your IRA, take physical custody, bullion, or numismatic, which under the law is private numismatic. Or again, put it into your IRA. It goes into a vault. a depository in Delaware, and then you could pay the tax on it and take physical custody at some point if you like. That's how I understand it. So I don't give financial advice. I give financial opinion. My opinion is you should do your homework. And I think that starts with the free packet. 1-877-864-1072, 1-877-864-1072, or just fill out the form at worldviewgold.com. All right, guys, that's our broadcast for tonight. Roll the music. Let's call it a night. Again, don't forget, we'll be sending out an email alert and a text alert when Worldviewpedia is live. It should happen this weekend when it's live, and you can start asking it questions and getting a biblical worldview response from our isolated and quarantined library of 36 years. Isn't that something else? WorldviewTube.com/vault if you want to join. WorldviewTube.com/vault. The next time in Brandon House. May God save America. Take care.
This is Brandon House Live. Whether the issue is law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, government, or national security, Brandon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brandon House.
And welcome to the broadcast. Glad you are with us. We are going to have another visit here before he leaves tomorrow morning. Aaron Lavarco, our reporter from Israel, is here with us again in studio. Last night, we did part 1, and this is what we titled it right here. Genesis to Revelation, God's plan, providence, and purpose for Israel and the church, part 1. Then today for radio at 1 o'clock Central, 2 Eastern, we did part 2. And so obviously that means we're now into part 3. So if you did not hear part 2, because it was at 1 o'clock, you can catch it at worldviewtube.com, worldviewtube.com, but it will not keep you from understanding what we're talking about. So if you heard last night, you missed today, part 2, don't worry, this part 3, you'll be able to keep up. So Aaron, we're getting a lot of feedback. We asked our radio audience today, do you like this kind of teaching? And lots of positive phone calls, lots of good texts, lots of good emails, people saying they love this kind of teaching. It's helping them to understand the Bible and God's providence and protection and plan for Israel, but also, as we're going to get into tonight, his plan for the church and how these are 2 programs of the Lord. We talked about that yesterday in Eternally Immortalized, as it's described in Revelation chapter 21, with the New Jerusalem coming down out of heaven with the 12 gates named after the 12 tribes of Israel, and then the 12 foundation stones after the apostles who laid down the foundation of the church. So these 2 programs, getting a lot of great feedback. Excited to finish up with part 4 before you head out of town tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Part 3, excuse me, before you head out of town tomorrow.
Yeah, well, you start talking about the church and everything. We got a long way to go. I was like, how are we going to get there? But, I loved hearing the 2 pastors who called in, Brandon, and they shared their spin on the thing. And, by no means are we coming across as if we know everything. We're just trying to, I think, give a general overview with a little bit of depth here and there. The ancient rabbis say every verse in the Bible is like, they call it Shiv'im Panim, 70 faces, meaning every verse, you can look at it from, it's what do you call it? Exaggerated. What's the word? Hyperbolic.
Hyperbolic. So remember, guys, he's thinking in Hebrew and then trying to translate it in
every
English.
verse is like got 70 faces, meaning hyperbolically, it's endless. And we're giving our take, and it was just really nice to hear these pastors also give their take as well.
Absolutely. All right, so we made it through three sections last night, and now we're in section 4 today for radio. And we got United Monarchy, Saul, David, and Solomon. We got this slide in here. Transition to kingship and Saul's reign. Israel demands a king like the nation. God grants Saul, who initially delivers Israel, but later disobeys and is rejected. And now here we are. David's rise and capture of Jerusalem. David is appointed, defeats Goliath, survives Saul's persecution, becomes king over all Israel, and makes Jerusalem the political and spiritual center. And of course, you can read about this in 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, especially 2 Samuel, chapter 5, verses 6 through 10. All right, let's pick it up here.
Brandon, first, before Logan changes that picture is amazing because that gate is kind of the eastern gate, and there you've got the temple up on the hill there. Now, that's an artist's rendition.
Yep.
That's not real.
No, I made this with AI.
No, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's really very much how it would look today because the Eastern Gate looks similar to like that. The stone is limestone, so that's the color, and that's exactly where the temple would be. So well done. How did you do that?
AI.
Yeah.
I just told AI what to do, and it did it.
Fantastic. Well done.
Yeah, I'm doing graphics. I'm sure we put somebody out of business in the control room. But no, actually, we have our graphic guy. Our graphic guy would build this stuff. Now we got our graphic guy using AI. Like, look, we can go way better and faster. So just use AI. Quit trying to be an artiste. It's about volume and content over here. We got to crank out a lot of stuff. So there you go. All right, talk about David's rise and capture of Jerusalem.
Well, David's rise, of course, when he killed the giant and he cut the head off. And have you ever read that in 1 Samuel 17? He cut the giant's head off and he took the head up to Jerusalem. That's all it says. And the question that some people say is, why did he take it up to Jerusalem? That's all the text says. And in the city at that time were the Jebusites. And this, by the way, we talked about this the other day. This is Zion, Brandon, right where we're talking about. This is Zion, and it was controlled by the Jebusites. David's capital at this stage was in Hebron, but he had his heart set on Jerusalem. At the time, it was called Salem. And the king, of course, the first king that we know of was Melchizedek.
Which we would say Melchizedek,
Melchizedek.
Right? Mm-hmm.
And David, it says in 2 Samuel 5, he captured the stronghold of Zion. And what he did when he did that, he moved his capital here to Jerusalem, uniting the 12 tribes because Jerusalem is kind of right in the center. That became his spiritual and cultural and political capital, uniting the 12 tribes. And of course, a key verse, it says he purchased, he didn't take, he purchased the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. That threshing floor was Mount Moriah, where that temple in that picture is. Mount Moriah is the Temple Mount. So
remind people what happened at Mount Moriah.
Well, Mount Moriah is the place about 1,800 years before the story where Abraham, his great-great-great-great-grandfather, offered up his son, Isaac. And of course, for those of you who don't know, Muslims have changed that. They say that Abraham offered up his other son, Ishmael. But the biblical text says it was Isaac. And so Mount Moriah is a very important place for Jewish people.
And of course, Isaac, his son was Jacob, who became Israel.
That's right, the whole lineage. And that was the line of promise, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, not Abraham, Ishmael, or Esau. Very important. God still loved Ishmael and Esau, and he gave them land. He called them 12 princes. But his covenant promise was through the lineage of Isaac and Jacob, who became Israel, as you said, and then the 12 tribes. And now David's taken over Jerusalem, uniting. This is what's the beginning, and we're going to get to that later. This is the United Kingdom, where all the 12 tribes are unified. And the beginning of David's reign, Brandon, this over the next 50, 60 years, this is going to be the very height of the history of Israel, where they had so many nations paying homage, paying tribute to Israel, but the building of the first temple. And people say it was Solomon's temple. Actually, it was David's. David had the vision for it. David, of course, wasn't allowed to build it because he was a man of war and he had blood on his hands. But his son Solomon, in the year 970 BC, he builds the first temple. So it's known as the Davidic Solomonic temple. This is the massive reign. And it was a reign of peace.
Now, he moves his headquarters, his capital, to Jerusalem.
Correct.
But he buys the land on which the temple's built.
Yes.
But we did hear in the program last night about Joshua. Joshua takes the leadership from Moses. Moses is not allowed to go into the promised land, and Joshua picks up leadership. And when they get into the land, what do they find? Who is residing there? Because I know that we talked about particularly dealing with the issue of, I think, Canaan and key fortified cities.
Yeah, the Canaanites.
So when the Jews arrive, are the Palestinians are the ones there? Is Yasser Arafat and his buddies there, and you guys took it from them?
No,
for
Brandon.
those not listening for those who are listening later by audio only, I'm smiling because you would think that's what is the deal.
Being facetious.
I mean, very facetious, tongue in cheek, right? You would think the Palestinians would be there, and you guys had booted them out, but they weren't there, were they?
They weren't there, and even their nemesis, who they were named after, were not yet there. The Philistines.
They weren't there yet.
They weren't quite there yet. They came in more or less at the same time as Joshua. They are called the Sea People, and they are mentioned in the prophet Amos, where God says, "Did I not bring you Israelites up out of Egypt, and you Philistines from the land of Crete?" Crete is in the Mediterranean near Malta and Greece. So they came in, they became one of the enemies, along with all these Jebusites and the Moabites and the Edomites. So there were a lot
and the termites.
And the termites. And if you're from Minnesota, the mosquito bites.
That's pretty good. That's quick. So isn't this interesting, though? We hear that the Jews have displaced the Philistines, which, of course, we know that was really the name given by the Roman emperor in order to try to be an insult to the Jews. Let's call it Philistine after the Philistines, their arch enemy. And as we've already stated, they weren't even from the land. And the Palestinians, they're really just Arabs. They have no DNA. No DNA and to that area, that region, and certainly no DNA to the Philistines, which aren't even a people anymore. It's just a made-up name and people, correct?
Exactly.
And we call them Palestine or Palestinians. It's really Philistines or Philistines.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yep.
Philistine.
But let me point out a really important verse, because in 2 Samuel chapter 24, in those days, Brennan, conquering kings, they didn't purchase land. They took it, like Joshua did. But the fact that says in 2 Samuel 24, verses 18 on, it says that David said, "I will not take something that does not cost me." And thank God he said that. Why? Because he purchases that land, which is the Temple Mount, Mount Moriah, for 50 shekels. We have a written document, a legal title to that land. We call it the Bible, but it's a legal document that David purchased that land. So we trace our ancestry back to David. We trace our lineage back to him. And of course, the Messiah comes through the lineage of David as well. This guy, David, he's quite a man. You know, he comes from a very broken background. You know, it was Ruth, the Moabitess, and Rahab. They were the lineage that David came through. A prostitute, a Moabitess. He was a bastard son. There's a debate that Jesse was not his father. But David became known as the fighting king. And we see here in the story where he takes over the land, that he purchases the land. And then the city was called the City of David. And that city, you can come as a tourist and visit it. Today, it's the most excavated site in all the land of Israel, maybe in all of the world. The City of David, where you see where his palace was, because afterwards he builds a palace, which some scholars say was a big mistake. And just like Saul and all the peoples, there's question marks. Why did David want actually to build a palace? It was not his nature to actually have a palace. The fact that he did got him in trouble, because it was one day when he was walking on that palace that he should have been out fighting. So
that's where he saw Bathsheba.
And that's where he saw Bathsheba. And he fell into sin, and it cost him big time.
Let's go back to the Canaanites. So when Joshua and the Hebrew children show up, they go to battle with the Canaanites?
Yes.
And I mean, did they just show up and say, hey, we're here to take your land, let's fight? Or how's this happen? They're just camping in the area, and who provokes who? How's this begin? Do we know?
Yeah, there's a number of stories. The king of Arad came out. The king of Jericho came out. We know the famous story of Jericho, and the fortified city of Jericho was shut up, it says. And how were Israel going to penetrate those walls? And we know the story.
Marching around the walls?
Marching around the walls. In fact, it would have been nice going to Graceland here in Memphis, and we could have maybe heard Elvis sing that famous song,
The Walls of
Joshua
Jericho.
For the Battle of Jericho. In fact, when I'm with a group down there, I put on my cell phone that song by Elvis on my microphone and play it to my group.
And we tried to get him to Graceland, but we just ran out of time. But we've got to do that at some point.
But it was strategic. Sometimes they went without getting direction from the Lord, and they lost. Sometimes the Lord gave them strategy. You know, the crazy strategy of Jericho. March around it 6 days, blow your shofars, and then on the seventh day, go around it 7 times. And really interestingly, Brennan, at that tell, it's called a tell, T-E-L, which is a archaeological term for a mound. The tell Jericho, it has about 9 layers of history. And we've found at that site the remains of a wall dated to the period of the conquest, and attached to that wall is a house. And some archaeologists believe that that is the house of Rahab, who hid the spies, and she was honored by the Lord when she said, remember me.
Isn't that something? Now, the Canaanites, I got to come back to that. So the, quote, indigenous people of the land is not the Palestinians. It would be the Canaanites.
It would be.
And where are those people today, Aaron?
Well, they are scattered. Some people actually believe, now a big part of Canaan was what today we call Lebanon. And so some people say that the Lebanese are actually the true Canaanites.
And are they harassing you guys to get their land back?
No, not at all. Not at all. No.
I'm belaboring this point to show how foolish people are.
Right.
Because if you really know history and know the Bible, you would realize if anyone should be screaming and hollering, it would be the descendants of the Canaanites. So you're telling me a bunch of them live in Lebanon, not too far away, and they're not they're not even interested in the land.
Exactly. And we had, you know, Edomites living in the land at some stages. We had the Moabites living in the land. They're on the eastern side. That's Jordan today. So, these nations, either they've lost out, we've lost track of them, or they've just scattered among the nations.
Does anyone bring this up? Hey, it's the Canaanites. It's not the Palestinians. It's the Canaanites that should be saying something. Does anyone bring that up, or is it just us?
Well, certainly not on a political level, except for the Philistines. But no, people.
Why doesn't Benjamin Netanyahu bring this up? What I don't understand is why sometimes your government, your people, very much like George W. Bush, he just didn't seem to know how to defend himself or his policies. I don't think, and sometimes you think it's almost, I don't know if it's that they don't feel the need to do it, or if it seems too defensive to them.
I have an answer.
It's beneath them, or if it's arrogance. I don't need to defend myself. No. I'm thinking, why not use your successes and explain to people why the media is wrong, why the left is wrong, why you're right. Why doesn't Benjamin Netanyahu do this? Hey, you guys want to talk about the indigenous people? It's the Canaanites, not you people.
Yeah, but if we did bring it up, Brandon, there's got to be some people out there that would say, well, there you go. You weren't originally there. You were, what do you call the word, like the British when they came in?
You were occupiers. You're
occupiers
settlers.
And settlers, but there's another word where you take over.
Genocide.
No, not pioneers.
Occupiers.
I just about had the word.
Conquerors.
Colonialists. Colonialists. You took over. It was some, and
but isn't that the history of the world? I mean, we came to America, right? And
it is.
America was founded.
It is, but here's the difference.
I mean, I don't think some of the Native Americans, the quote indigenous people, some of the Native Americans, some of them probably didn't get treated so well. Others sold their land, whatever it might be. But that's the story of history.
Yeah, but here's the problem, Brandon. And I know there's going to be some people listening, and they will have a problem with this.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the conquest period, can you imagine if that happened today and the news got wave of it? What would we be called? What would Joshua be called? He would be called a genocider.
Right.
He would be called a murderer.
Which you guys are called already.
And what would Joshua say to the United Nations? Stand up. You know what he would say in his defense? Well, God told me to do it. What else is his defense? He's got no other defense.
But what country hasn't acquired land through conquest?
I know,
right?
but I agree totally. But what I'm trying to get at is you cannot in the land of Israel, you cannot divorce religion and politics because they go hand in hand. What we're talking about, it's not just a conquest, it's a religious conquest.
But it is also because were the Canaanites not obviously involved in idolatry and all kinds of horrible stuff? And God uses the Hebrew people to bring judgment. But guess what? Sometimes God turned around and used other nations to bring judgment on the Hebrew children, like the Babylonians.
Very good.
Right? And so it's the history of God bringing judgment on people. It really goes back to Daniel 2 and Nebuchadnezzar's vision, right? And Daniel interprets it. And what is it? It's the story of God raises up leaders and nations and kings and takes them down. So yeah, the Canaanites were here. Some of these different groups picked fights with us. We won. That's the history of the world. God used us to judge them for their paganism and their idolatry. And yet, guess what? Sometimes God used nations like Babylon to judge us. But now he also promised we'd be back in the land. And we're back in the land now.
You know what? You hit the nail on the head. That it was all about judgment. And that word judgment is actually a positive word, even though most people connect it to it in a negative sense. Judgment, my understanding of judgment is separation, separating good from evil, light from darkness. And that's the whole idea of God's bringing judgment, whether it's him using Israel or using nations against Israel. It's to bring separation between unholy and holy. I think that is a very important point.
Let's go back to the slide. David's rise and capture of Jerusalem. David's anointed, defeats Goliath, survives Saul's persecution, becomes king over all Israel, and makes Jerusalem the political and spiritual center. All right, let's move to the next point. Next point. There it is. The Davidic covenant. God promises David an enduring house, throne, and kingdom, establishing the framework for messianic expectation and future hope.
So really, this is where we start to see more of the seeds of the coming of the Messiah, a messianic hope. You know, David is looked upon as the beloved. That's actually what his Hebrew name David means, the beloved. And even though he failed miserably, for those of you who don't know the biblical narrative, you know, he had his eye fixed on a girl, and he sent her husband into the front line, knowing that he'd get killed, and that's what happened.
So he was really guilty of adultery and murder.
And murder, both, absolutely. And he went on business as usual until Nathan the prophet came along and, told him of his sin. And David thankfully repented. And Nathan said, "You're forgiven, but there's going to be consequences. You can't just say I'm the king and say it's good to be the king without consequences. And David paid a heavy, heavy price. His first son was killed, and he had trouble in his house, big troubles. But God never took away his promise from David. And so the lineage of David, we read many years later in the prophet Isaiah saying that God will, establish the throne of his father David. And then future promises, it says in Isaiah chapter 22, verse 22, it says, and to him I will give the keys to the house of David. And of course, that was a messianic promise. So the lineage of David is a very important lineage. It's a promise that I actually think goes back to Genesis 3, which God said to Adam, the seed of the woman will crush the head of the serpent. Even back then, there was a promise one day there would be a messianic hope. Ultimately, it will be to crush the devil's head, not just enemies. And that's the lineage of the Messiah. And that's why it's important when we read the New Testament, one of the titles of Jesus is the Son of David. He came from the lineage of David, which qualifies him to be the Messiah.
And the seed of the woman, and the woman is Israel.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, isn't that interesting? Genesis chapter 3, God is already referencing Israel.
Yes. Yeah.
But how many Christians know that? How many Christians go to Bible teaching evangelical churches don't even know that God is already speaking about the nation of Israel in Genesis 3?
And when Jesus was crucified, what was written over his head, Brandon? The King
of the Jews.
Of the Jews.
Mocking him.
It was mocking him. But remember when he had a chance to take it away? He said, no. What is written, let it remain. And he didn't even know it, but that is the title of Jesus, the King of the Jews, the King of Israel.
Who didn't know it?
Caiaphas. Was it Caiaphas, the high priest? No, it was the Pilate. I think it was Pilate, Pontius Pilate. When it was the Sanhedrin asked them to take it away, and he said, "What is written is written." I think that was Pontius Pilate.
I want to go back though. Genesis 3 is so important, as we said last night, to Revelation 12. And with all the anti-Semitism, the replacement theology, if we would actually teach the Bible in more of our churches, we wouldn't have such confusion, because here we are in the 3rd chapter of the 1st book, and we're already referencing Israel.
Yeah.
We're already referencing the solution to the fall, which will come through that special chosen nation. Yeah. And God had to choose somebody. Okay, so we can sit and argue, well, it should have been this group or that group. But he had to choose somebody. He had to choose some heritage and line from which to bring the Messiah. And he chose the Jews.
And Brennan.
That Hebrew line.
And Brennan, some people listening might be thinking, what are you talking about choosing Israel? It was Jesus. But what they don't understand is Jesus is the representative of Israel. That's my whole argument. King of the Jews. You're right. It was through the Jewish people. He was the representative. Even the high priest says, remember he prophesied and he said, it's better that one person die for the nation. So redemption came through Israel. Friends, you who believe in Jesus and are anti-Semitic or anti-Israel, you need to understand Jesus represents the Jews. He represents Israel, and redemption, yes, it came through one person, Jesus, but he was representing Israel.
And again, there had to be a line that was preserved to allow this seed to come.
Exactly.
And then, of course, I think that's what's going on with satanic, demonic entities having sexual relations with the daughters of men, some kind of demons and men's
hybrid,
creating this hybrid of demonic human offbreed, the Nephilim, which is why we see in Genesis 6, God has to destroy and start over.
Yes.
And those demons are bound in everlasting chains. We read about it in, I think, 2 Peter and certainly in Jude. So the point I'm making is Satan has always been trying to stop any line genetically from the Messiah coming. And when this process was chosen, and is already being referenced in Genesis 3 by the Lord God himself, that line has to be protected. And we keep seeing the attempt to try to wipe it out, whether we talked about with Pharaoh.
Then later on came Haman.
Right.
Then Herod. Then Antiochus Epiphanes IV, which we'll get to. Then Hitler. And even today, trying to wipe us out.
So again, the Jews often would, I'm sure, say, why did he not choose someone else, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a burden to be the chosen people, but it was a chosen people and a chosen line for a specific reason, of which, again, we're told in Genesis chapter 12, the whole world will be blessed by it. Yeah. So why are we cursing a group of people that God has used to bring us Messiah, and to then use them as the Holy Spirit moved to write the word of God, every one of them that wrote the Bible being Jewish, except for Luke? Why would we curse these people? And again, look at what they've gone through, right? Why would we not say, bless them?
Yeah.
Bless them. And thank you for giving us this line of Messiah. Thank you for the Jewish writers. I'm so thankful God used your people. And I know for your people that's come at a very heavy price. And there will be in the future, because Revelation 12 describes what the Jews are going to go through when Antichrist in the second half of the tribulation really goes after them.
Yes. And Brannon, there is a history-old argument or accusation that we Jews are Christ killers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's based on one passage where Pontius Pilate took Jesus before the crowd and said, who should I release, Barabbas or Jesus? And the crowd said Barabbas. And then they said, crucify him. May his blood be upon us and upon our children. But let me make it clear, based on that space where it happened, the Praetorium, and I can take you to the two suggested places of that Praetorium, there was only about 100, 120 Jews. It wasn't the whole nation who said that. It was just a small band of Jews, 100 and 120. So please, get rid of that accusation that we crucified Jesus. Actually, do you know what John 3:16, what Jesus said? For God so loved the world, and it was, and Jesus said, I lay down my life, and even Jesus said, I will be handed over to the Romans, and 3 days later I will be crucified. So it was everyone. In fact, even Isaiah 53, it says, it pleased the Father to bruise him. So it's not, it's not entirely us. All sinners are guilty of the crucifixion.
Well, and it was Roman crucifixion.
It was Roman crucifixion.
Pontius Pilate was there. He was Roman. Right?
He was.
So why are we going to just blame the Jews? What? It was my sin that nailed Christ to the cross.
That's it.
Let's go to the next one. Solomon's reign and first temple. Solomon's wisdom, wealth, and building projects culminate in the construction and dedication of the temple, centralizing sacrificial worship in Jerusalem. Because now, obviously, Solomon is the son of David, and he's building this temple. But it really shouldn't, as you said earlier, be called Solomon's temple. It should be called David and Solomon's temple.
Yeah.
Because David had the idea for it, right?
David had the vision, totally. But he wasn't allowed to build it, which actually is an interesting passage, because Orthodox Jews today who want to rebuild the temple, they're very careful not to use force, because they say David had blood on his hands. He was a man of war. He wasn't allowed to rebuild. He wasn't allowed to build the temple. But Solomon built the temple, and the key to this, I think, is Solomon's name. In Hebrew, we call him Shlomo. Can you say that? Shlomo.
Shlomo.
Yeah. And it's from the word shalom, Shlomo, which means his peace, meaning it was a period of peace. Finally, the tabernacle that had been portable in the wilderness for 40 years, then it rested in Shiloh for 369 years. Now we have a permanent house for God. This was and also the location, Jerusalem. Like I said, the center of the 12 tribes. This was the unifying moment in Israel's history with the Shekinah glory and the priests and everything. It was a very monumental moment. And Solomon, who was not like his father David, David was the fighting king. Solomon was more the administrative king. It says he had 12 districts to rule and reign. And Solomon adopted an army. He adopted many, many tribute states. So this was where wealth was in abundance for Israel. And that's good, but there's a warning, because Solomon, he had all this gold and all this wealth and all of his horses and chariots. We've got remains.
And wives and concubines.
And, well, no, what happened, Brandon, is when he made a deal with a foreign king, part of the deal was that they would give a daughter.
Right.
But God said, when your kings come to power, they are not to increase in gold, in horses, or in women. And what happened is the influence from the foreign women compromised Solomon. And we see in his life, we see how he ended up worshiping and turning to some of the gods of his wives. In fact, it says up on the Mount of Olives, he erected the gods of his wives on the Mount of Olives. So this was the beginning, even though it was kind of the zenith in the period of history of Israel, this also was the beginning of the fall. And soon we're going to get to the divided kingdom.
Yeah, because there's going to be judgment.
Yeah.
Judgment. And Babylon will be used to bring it. Do you think there's anything to be said? Feel free to say. I'm just asking. David, obviously, and of course, I think all people struggle with sin, obviously. But David had an eye for the ladies, obviously, Bathsheba. Solomon comes along. He seems to have an eye for the ladies. Is there any connection there that the story of what's happened with his father?
The sins of the father,
yes,
so to speak.
Thank you.
I mean, it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear. I mean, you can put two and two together by saying that. I can't say for sure, but it's a very good point. You know, everyone knew about David's sin. And actually, David had 4 wives. So it wasn't as if it was an immoral thing to have more than one wife.
You know what comes to my mind? By the old saying, what one generation accepts, the next accepts in excess.
Interesting. Yeah, makes sense.
But you said as it was not a sin to have more than one wife at that time.
Correct. Yeah, polygamy was totally accepted. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Jacob had Leah and Rachel. You know, I heard one pastor say, true, but it was messy. Those who had more than one wife, it was messy. I actually happen to know an Orthodox Jew, Brennan, who believes in Old Testament polygamy. He has 2 wives.
Yeah. I talked to I won't name him, I'll let him speak for himself, but I know a guy, if I named him and who he is and what he's worked on the projects, many people in this audience would know who he is, but I'll let him speak for himself. He told me once, actually last year, he said, I don't think other than for an elder must be the husband of but one wife. He said, other than an elder, I don't think there's a problem in the Bible that stops you from having more than one wife as a Christian.
Right.
And his response was, but why would you want more than one wife?
Exactly.
Well, why would you want more than one?
You know, Brandon, I know.
But for elders, they must be the husband of one wife.
But other than that, no, it's true. I actually know a missionary to Africa. He led a Muslim to the Lord. The Muslim had 4 wives. What do you tell the Muslim to do, Brandon?
Oh, you can't tell him to divorce
you
him.
Can't tell him.
It's right.
He obviously can't be an elder.
Right.
But you're not going to tell him to divorce any of his wives because that's kind of cruel. Although I did hear one person say what he should do is he should keep one wife, divorce the 3, but make sure the 3 are well looked after. I don't know. We'll see.
All right, so let's go to the next one. Now we're on to number 5. We have 8 points we're going to, and these have been the subpoints. Now number 5, divided kingdom, Assyrian and Babylonian exile. So here we go. The judgment the divided kingdom, and then we're going to have some judgment going on. Here's the first under 5. Division of the kingdom, Israel and Judah. Solomon's policies and Rehoboam's harshness lead to revolt. 10 tribes from the northern kingdom, Israel, while Judah remains under David's line. Speak to that.
This is a painful period, Brandon, because it brings up a lot what we're seeing in Israel today, in the United States, division. But the divided kingdom didn't just happen overnight. There were handwriting signs on the wall. There were cracks in the structure. There was abuse of power, slave labor, building. I go back to building a name for ourselves, building up. That's what Solomon was doing, living in his palace, living with luxury. And then his successors, Jeroboam, abuse of power. And taking the advice of the younger people rather than the more statesman-like, more wise counselors, Jeroboam ended up, abusing his power. And so the divided kingdom, as I said, it didn't happen overnight. And what a heartbreak, because unity is so powerful. When you've got a united family, when you've got a united church, when the ship at war, when you've got an army that's united, it is a powerful weapon. And conversely, when there is division, like the Lord said, a nation or a kingdom divided against itself cannot stand.